Hello everyone, I'm Ek from EkTech Games, and in this tutorial video I'm going to walk you through creating a melee weapon enumeration. I'm also going to show you how to add some data to the enum values and show you why that's useful. The contents of this tutorial are inside of EkTech Games, Data Driven Enums, inside the README that ships with the package. So let's open that up. And we'll just scroll down to the enum creation example tutorial and just walk through it. So I've created a little helper window that will generate the necessary code to create the enumeration and an enum value. All we have to do is come up with a name for the class. We'll call it Melee Weapon Type. And we can leave these fields as their defaults because this just specifies where the classes are going to get created and where the JSON is going to wind up living. So click the Create Enumeration button. That shows us where these things were created. So in the console log, we're going to see where those were created at, and we had to recompile since we just generated some new code files. So let's open up our enum value. That's going to be in scripts, common, enums, and we're going to open up the enum value. All right, let's go back to our README. We need to add a couple of fields of data. Here we're going to specify the damage that these weapons are going to do, how much they cost, and whether or not you could purchase it from the stores inside of your game. And since we've created new fields of data, we need to copy those over in the copy constructor. And there's a helpful little to-do here that explains that. So this will determine the damage. We're going to roll a number of dice and specific sided dice to generate the damage and have the cost. And we'll be able to see that inside the game. So now we have adjusted our enum value. Let's head back to README. Now we need to add some data into our JSON file. So that's going to be in streaming assets, data, enums, melee weapon type. Okay. And we need to replace the sample item entry with this data. We'll look at this data here in a second. So we're going to replace this with this. Bam. Let's go ahead and tab that back once or twice. So here we've just defined a few different weapons. We have a longsword, which will do 1 6-sided die worth of damage. I'm going to change that to 8, be closer to D&D. We have a greatsword that does 2d6, and we have a demon boss blade that does 4 8-sided worth of damage. Each one of these has a separate cost, and whether or not it can be purchased, the longsword and the greatsword, you can purchase it, but for the demon boss blade, we don't want you to head down to their general store and be able to pick up the final weapon for the final boss there. All right, now that we have our data specified, we need to reload that data so that the editor is aware of it. All right, let's head back to our README. Now we need to create a new mono behavior so that it can hold some of this data and we can test some things. So I've created weapon type tester. I'm going to add a component, call it weapon type tester component for a new script. And then I just have the entire file here, so we're going to copy this, open this guy, and just replace the contents of the file with the stuff that was provided. We'll walk through this. So this attribute says, hey, draw the string like a pop-up list. And I'll show you what that looks like. And you can see that we have all 3 of our weapons that we've created there. We have the greatsword, we have the longsword, and this just stores the string, the code name inside of that string field. What else do we have? We have should run test. That's just this little checkbox. Anytime we check that, it's going to run it while the game is in play mode, while the editor is in play mode. And here we're going to roll up the damage by looping over a number of dice and the sides of the dice and generating random numbers and calculating that total. And then we just print a little bit of information about each of those weapons. So let's go ahead and test that out real quick. So here we have a longsword. Let's go ahead and run that. Rolled 1d8 for a total of 3 damage. 6 damage. So you can see how we're using data to drive kind of the functionality of our game. So let's roll for a greatsword. 2d6 gets 7, gets 11, 10, nice. And the demon boss blade is going to roll 48 and is not available for purchase. So let's look a little bit more at this data, and you can see we're still running in play mode. And while that's going on, we can just add in another weapon. Let's make it dagger. Let's call it display name dagger. A simple dagger. And it's going to do 1d4 damage, and it will be available for purchase. Since we've just changed our data, we do have to reload that data so that our game's aware of it. And now we should see this pop up in our list. Game's still running. Oops, don't add a component. Now we can roll a little damage. Cost 0. Did I mess something up there? Let's go back. I didn't put a cost for the demon blade. I'll fix that. We'll say it costs 5. And head back in. Now, cost 5 gold pieces. So you can see when we drive our game's logic from data that lives inside of our streaming assets folder, it kind of opens up your game to be more easily modded. We can talk about some different things that we might add here. So we might have something like a sprite that represents the weapon in game, or a sound effect that plays. We might add in a bit for is two-handed so that it could prevent the equipping of a shield if you were using something like a greatsword. Or we might extend it even further and add like a weapon type, or not a weapon type, a damage type. And we could have bashing and slashing and piercing, and maybe a skeleton could take more damage from bashing attacks but be resistant to piercing attacks. And this just kind of shows the benefits of data-driven code like this. It lets us iterate more quickly during development. As you can see, I had a couple of small errors that I was easily able to correct just by fixing this. Didn't even have to recompile. So thanks for watching. If you run into any problems getting this working, feel free to join our Discord or leave a comment, and I'll be happy to help you get it working.